Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Well, I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to speak on this matter because rarely in our history has there been so sorry an example of public administration as the administration of the NBN under the previous government, and rarely has there been such a clear contrast between the two approaches. Now, of course, to start the NBN story, Mr Deputy Speaker, we have to go back to 2007 when Kevin Rudd said that the then opposition would contribute $4.7 billion to what then was only going to be a $10 billion network. Now, of course, what happened then was they sort of had a few chats with people in industry, decided that was all a bit complicated, and the then Communications Minister, Senator Conroy, in a couple of fleeting airborne meetings with the then Prime Minister, sort of said, well, look, you know, that idea we had before the election, that's not going to work, unfortunately, because numbers don't stack up even remotely. So then what happened was the then Prime Minister emerged in April of 2009 and, mustering all the gravitas that he could, said that with the private sector in retreat, the government would step up and build the NBN at a cost of $43 billion. And he said that the private sector would contribute up to 49% of that cost. And of course that didn't happen, Mr Deputy Speaker, because this was such a flawed project from the outset. So much so that the independent report that the government commissioned late last year found that the cost would actually be about $73 billion to build the NBN. And you've got to pause for a moment and think about that, Mr Deputy Speaker. There's about 9 million households in Australia. $73 billion works out about $8,000 per household in Australia. And further, what the report found was that the average cost to the average home under that plan would be about $138 per month. So you might recall, Mr Deputy Speaker, prior to the election, Labor saying that under Labor high-speed broadband would be free, and that of course manifestly false, because it failed to identify the fact that each household in taxes was effectively contributing about $8,000 to build it, and then would be required to pay more than $100 per month in order to access it. Now, there was supposed to be, of course, 500,000 homes connected by June 2013. There were actually 23,000. And the cost of the network prior to the election, $6.5 billion, reaching 3% of homes. Only 3% of homes for $6.5 billion, and that's a very bad investment, Mr Deputy Speaker. And what that failure means is that people continue to struggle to get high-speed broadband in this country. Small businesses in Padstow, in my electorate, still struggle to get high-speed broadband, as indeed do many residents in Lugano. So for all the bluff and bluster and extraordinary commitment of public funds on a whim in the back of a napkin, the practical results were very poor. So we're going to focus on practical results, Mr Deputy Speaker. We're going to use technology in a multifaceted way. So if technology is working effectively or can be used, rather than ripping it up, as the previous government was going to do, we will make use of that asset to build the NBN in a strategic way. We'll save $29 billion, Mr Deputy Speaker, $29 billion, extraordinary amount of money, and we'll build it 4 years quicker, than the previous government would have done. And any claims from those opposite in relation to the NBN have extremely limited credibility, Mr Deputy Speaker, when you do take into account the extraordinary cost blowouts in the network, the fact that 3% of homes were covered for $6.5 billion, Mr Deputy Speaker, just an extraordinary use of public money. And interestingly, since the government of the day completed its deal with Telstra related to the NBN in 2011, the share price of Telstra has increased in a fairly dramatic fashion, and that may suggest that the government didn't negotiate the most sophisticated of deals with Telstra, Mr Deputy Speaker, and another very poor indictment on what was an extreme failure in public policy. The government's plan is on the right track and will get the NBN that Australia needs faster and more cheaply.